Good evening and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. My name is John, and I'm sorry we're a bit late. I had to restart my laptop and shut Microsoft Teams and all that rubbish away. But welcome. I've not been here for a little while, but a man that's been here pretty much every show. Well, it is every show, isn't it? Is HG. How are you, mate?
Have I been every show? Probably. I don't. Does it make me seem like a particularly sad? It's just late at night here. So what am I going to do? Go out in like the 1 degree weather and enjoy myself on a Monday night in Vienna? No, of course I'm going to do a show and talk to all the lovely people around the world.
I've got my Lemsip tonight in my Cheese Room podcast mug because it is absolutely freezing in this garage. I've got my girl's blanket as well, keeping me warm. So let's crack on because I don't want to be in here for too long if I can avoid it. Shall we start with if there we go. So we'll start Saturday's games. So we have some much excitement with the Patreons, especially JP and Cameron, two of our regulars on this show, that Australia finally got off to a win. Did you watch this one, HG?
Actually, I did. Saturday morning, I'd done all the food shopping for the week, so I got back home and in time to watch this one, and it was about as good as expected. But I was happy that the Australians won because it was a pretty good goal to win it. I don't remember too much else apart from that, but Tunisia weren't great, and Australia did enough in the end.
I saw some brilliant videos that Cameron sent me of Melbourne city centre where there was about 7,000 fans. Davo keeps telling us nothing happens in Melbourne, but well, apparently it does. They got very excited at beating the mighty Tunisia. So well done to
All the
Australia. They're on the
sport,
board.
yeah, all the sport happens in Melbourne. That's like Australia is the sport capital. You've got the Formula One's there, the tennis is there. Obviously, the cricket home is the MCG, not the SCG. So it's really only rugby that's not a Victoria thing, not a Melbourne thing. So if you don't like sport, you go and live in Sydney, basically.
I think, Paddy, we've got a response here for you, mate. Calling everyone for some reason. He's doing his hair or something. I don't know. Actually, he was tidying the man cave yesterday. He's having a part. He's having his birthday party. I don't know. His birthday's not till January.
No, his birthday's in
And
January, but it's there's some
yeah.
match on tomorrow night, and he's inviting his imaginary friends over. I don't know who he's paid to come
Oh,
and sit
from
in
the
the man
village,
cave.
the people
That's
from the
right, right.
village.
The other
Yeah,
people in the village, all seven of them. But
the
yeah,
other crazies. Yes, enthusiasm, Kerry. I'm going to have to keep upbeat because it's really quite cold in here. I was just walking from the house to here, and the my breath was in the air. It's that chilly now, and I didn't think to come and turn the heating on earlier. And also, it's expensive to turn the heating on in here. Decorating his tree. Yeah, we did our tree yesterday. Have your tree gone up yet, HG?
it is. Yeah, we're not massive decorators, but my daughter was bored a couple of weeks ago, and she asked to do it. So we're like, okay, we don't really care. It'll probably stay up until March because we're just really bad at doing all those things. But it's all right. It's a bit too colourful for me. I quite like the traditional kind of silvers and golds, and this one is very green and red and yellow. I'm looking at it right now. But
That's
yeah,
because it's all about the kids now, HG. It's not about you anymore, mate.
that's right. Having to lie to my
Has to be
daughter
colourful.
every day when she's like, "Oh, did you go and pick up that the thing you bought? You said you had to go and get it," and you're like, "Yes, but like I won't get it for like maybe another 4 weeks." Just kind of, yeah. I don't like lying to my own daughter, but sometimes it's just necessary.
Yeah, I mean, Kerry, you are late because Shan had hers up like 2 weeks ago, I think. She probably, I'm sure she'd been on Twitter. Anyway, Poland, Saudi Arabia. Finally, Robert Lewandowski got his first ever World Cup goal. Was it something like his 79th goal or something for Poland?
Probably. And he cried and he cried and he cried. I mean, like having missed a penalty in the previous game, he probably thought it was never going to happen. So to get, I think it was the second goal in that game, but to finally put one in, you could see it meant a lot to him because Poland, they usually qualify for things, but they never get anywhere. So now they've got a pretty
Yeah.
good chance of making it out of Group C.
Well, it's an interesting group indeed. Obviously, with Argentina beating Mexico in the evening, 2-0. I can't
Yeah.
actually say I watched that game. And then if we just cover France, Mbappe, how good is this guy? He's just
Yeah. He's just what? I want to hear what you're
just
going to say.
amazing. It's just amazing. He's so quick, but it just when he gets the ball, something's going to happen. He's electric, isn't he?
He is, and that's just it. Like it's weird when you're as good as he is, and you almost wonder why it happens so rarely. Because clearly, no matter when he gets the ball, he's got the beating of his man, whoever that may be. So the question is, what can he do with it once he's beat his end? He's almost too fast for the rest of the team in some respects, which is why he gets on the end of things rather than creates most. But yeah, he's an extremely good player. Him and Haaland are the future when it comes to that kind of best player in the world business. And look, I know Haaland is, let's say, a bit more limited because he plays centrally. But Mbappe, it's like a cheat code. The fact that he's so good with both feet, he's strong, and he's not just fast, but almost a next level, too fast for everyone else. It's a bit unfair. But the good thing is the rest of the French team is pretty ropey. So, Denmark were level for a lot of that game.
Yeah.
Maybe could have got a winner. So France are beatable, but yeah, if Mbappe's on form, you have to score twice to beat them.
We're getting on to England later because there's a good chance England might play France. And news today that Kyle Walker may well start tomorrow is probably a good thing because he's about the only person we've got who could have hope of keeping up with Mbappe. So it's probably good news that he is coming back into the side. So France seem to have that group pretty much sewn up. So they got Tunisia and Australia played Denmark for the playoff game, effectively, isn't it?
Exactly, Denmark have to win. I mean, you'd expect Denmark to win, but Denmark have had this kind of weird thing that they were everyone's dark horses for the tournament because we all know they're a decent side with lots of good players. But it feels as if the manager is kind of just still trying to figure out what his best 11 is. They don't really have a central striker, and that makes things difficult. They played a back three in the first game against Tunisia and probably shouldn't have done, and they played a back four against France and maybe should have gone with a back three. So it's a bit odd, but you do think they'll have enough for Australia. I feel like the only way the Aussies are going to get the result they need is if it's a boring goalless draw.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on to Poland's group. Poland top of that group. Again, interesting mix there. So
Yeah,
who have we
because
got?
the top two play each other, right? So
Top
it's
two play each
Poland
other.
versus
So
yeah. So
Saudi
Poland.
Arabia beat
Mhm.
Mexico. They're in, aren't they?
Yep, yep.
Guaranteed. And if
And
they draw,
okay,
it comes down to goal
if
difference
they
potentially.
if they draw, yeah,
If
goal
Poland beat
difference.
if Poland beat Argentina,
Mhm.
then Saudi Arabia just need a draw.
Yeah,
If Argentina beat Poland, and Saudi Arabia draw, it'll be down to goal difference. So I'm not sure what the goal difference.
I think going. I think
Poland would go
Poland would
through
be
because Poland
ahead.
beat them 2-0. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that yeah.
So it's a bit weird, but usually it's two versus three that's the game that people want to watch. But actually, in that group, Argentina, they know if they win, they top the group because I don't think Saudi Arabia will beat Mexico. I don't. And Mexico aren't bad, but Mexico will need to win. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, like if Argentina finish second, then they've almost certainly got France in the next round, which is the game that we saw 4 years ago when Pavard scored that incredible goal from like 30 yards. But I don't think anyone really wants to see that game that early. So it would be probably better for the tournament if they avoid each other and that both teams win their group. But still, someone's going to have to play a difficult game. If Argentina win the group, they likely get Denmark. If they finish second in the group, they likely get France. It's that will be a big round of 16 game, whoever goes through. Of course, if it's Poland and Saudi Arabia, then I guess no one will watch and they'll just spend Saturday going shopping. But like personally, I want to watch Argentina play the big games. I do. I want to see Messi at least get a chance to go on because going out in the group stage would be horrific, not just for the tournament but kind of for football.
Yeah. And then Japan, who beat the mighty Germany in the first game, then losing to Costa Rica, which was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? Seems to be a very topsy-turvy World Cup, this one, HG.
Yeah, because maybe because it's the middle of the season. Like I feel like there are a lot of teams that don't really know how they want to play, and they don't know their best team. Because you could look at Belgium and say the same. Like Japan, like Tomiyasu, as much as he plays for the Goons, is a pretty good defender. You'd expect him to start, and he doesn't for Japan. Costa Rica, we can name probably the same three players that we've named for the last decade. But 3 points is 3 points. They've got a chance now. So although they've got to play, I'm not sure who they got to play next. Costa Rica will be against Germany.
Yeah.
They'll think it's doable. So yeah, because the Germans will have to beat them. Costa Rica have three. Germany's got one. So yeah, the Costa Rica will know that Germany have to knock them out, and maybe Costa Rica can do something on the counter.
Yeah, and I've just seen news coming through that I hadn't spotted this earlier that our Man City game is going to be played on a Thursday in January, HG. Just changing tact a bit.
Really?
Yeah, Thursday the 19th at 8 p.m. at the Etihad.
But that means we play them like 2 weeks later at Spurs as well.
Yeah.
That's like I don't like that. I don't
And
want to play them
we
twice
play
in
them
three
4 days
weeks.
after the North London Derby.
Oh my gosh.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, like I understand why they've done it because there's only a few kind of free midweeks later on in the season, and they might need them for other games. But it does suck because like when's the Arsenal Man City game? Have they decided when that one's going to be?
I
They could have done
don't
that
know.
that Thursday, and then Arsenal could have played Man City 4 days after the North London derby. Why is it always Spurs? Anyway,
Anyway, we'll come back to that. Belgium, the golden generation. Is this like the Golden Girls generation where they're all in their 70s and can't play? Because that
um,
what has happened to them?
I don't think anything's really happened to them. I think they've just realised like Lukaku's out, and Lukaku is their best ever goal scorer for Belgium. Like scores a load of their goals. He's played a few minutes, if that, in the first two games. But I think Martinez has stuck with let's say the bigger names, and it hasn't worked for him. Like I don't think Vertonghen and Alderweireld have done anything wrong. I think their defence has been all right, but going forward they haven't got the right balance. De Bruyne has been out of sorts. Um, they're playing Hazard over Trossard. Like they've struggled. They were lucky to win the first game. They're pretty toothless in the second one. So yeah, it's weird because I still think there's a good side. Again, I think there's a good team there, but I think Martinez has just decided that the bigger names are more likely to get his team through, and now they're really struggling because they have to beat Croatia. And I don't think they will. I think Croatia are good enough and smart enough and have an actual team that will do a number on Belgium and probably win that game. So yeah,
Ah,
that's losing to Morocco was a terrible result.
so Arsenal v Man City will be played on Wednesday, the 15th of February.
Right. Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure
Like
what
I
that
mean,
is.
I'm sure it helps. Like, we can't play Man City that week because it's a Champions League week.
Yeah, it's the day. Well, we're playing on
So
Valentine's Day, aren't we? So,
yeah, there you go.
Croatia, Canada. I thought this was a great game. Canada started so brightly. You really wanted them to play well. They scored a brilliant goal, and you just wanted them to keep going. And they just some last minute decisions were wrong. It took Croatia a while to get going, but once they got going into their rhythm, they were just brilliant. Modric just controlled it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And again, the Canada goal is pretty much the only one I've actually cheered during this tournament where I felt something was actually happening, something memorable. Like I didn't watch the Saudi Arabia Argentina game because I was at work, but the Canada one, 2 minutes in, lovely goal. Like you knew that he wasn't going to miss. And then after that, Canada forgot what they'd done so well in the first game, and they played a different system that didn't really work, and they were outnumbered in midfield, and that I think they got quite tired. And Croatia took advantage. I mean, we've seen it's basically what Croatia did to England 4 years ago.
Yeah.
England scored early, were doing all right, probably could have got a second, and then Croatia got one in the second half. And after that point, there was really only one team that was going to win it. So you know that Croatia, they've got good players. Kramaric, the two goals were really well taken, including the one I think that was disallowed. It was
Yeah,
brilliantly
well, that was a
taken.
good
So
take. Yeah,
so
yeah,
we all know Croatia have got a very good midfield, a pretty good attack. Defensively, you're a bit nervous because like this Juranovic, who played right back, don't rate him. But if they can get some kind of balance, if they can keep it in midfield and going forward, Livaya looks like again they're another side that don't really have a striker, and so they've played this Marco Livaya in the last game. He scored, and it's like the Germans. It looked like that the team functioned better with him in it, even if he's not a name that many football fans will have heard of.
yeah. Kerry's concerned about she got very itchy watching the game. Too many itches. I think there's
Yeah,
some cream you can probably get for that, Kerry, but that's another story.
yeah.
I'm
Too
sure.
too many inches. We don't want to talk about that. But
Yeah,
too many
I'm,
itches is
I'm sure Caller can advise on the too many itches situation. No.
definitely not the other one. Anyway,
Anyway,
he's
so
taller than he
Espana,
appears. He's taller than he appears. We
he
should say
is
this.
he is much taller than he appears.
Of course, that's what I
As
mean.
is Brendan. Brendan's much taller, I thought. Anyway,
Huh?
Espana, top of the pile, and they play Japan. Costa Rica played Germany. I mean, I'm
The, the,
thinking
the,
Spain and Germany here, unless there's a some sort of weird shock.
Yeah, I think the Germans know they have to win. The question is, do the Spanish help out by, will that be enough if they let Japan get a draw? Would that be enough to keep Japan above Germany? Do they really care? I suspect Spain will just go out and play the game and try and win the game. And Japan will do
Yeah.
what they did to Germany and probably be very passive and allow the Spanish to play and hope to get them on the counter attack with a couple of quick goals. But yeah, it's a weird one because, again, Germany looked better with a plodding striker. Füllkrug is no genius. He's
Yeah.
nowhere near as skillful as Havertz, nowhere near as fast as Gnabry, nowhere near as smart as Thomas Muller, but he fits the side. They need someone that, like Musiala needs someone to play off, and even if it is, again, I was trying to think of an English equivalent to Füllkrug, and it's like he's having his Amazaki moment. Like he's been a low, kind of like I mean, when I commentated on German football, he was in the second division at the time and
Mm.
was a plodder at that level. But he kept going and he got his, let's say, big move to Werder. They got promoted and he kept on scoring for them. And he's, really had a really good half a season and got made the German squad. So, like, you think that
Chris Wood
Mukoku is.
maybe. I know he's New
Um,
Zealander, but
no,
obviously
Chris Wood's not a bad
Leicester and
comparison,
Leeds.
actually. Yeah, I mean, because Chris Wood doesn't play every game, he hasn't scored that much, but he's not a bad comparison because he get Burnley up for a couple of seasons by himself,
Mm.
and Füllkrug will probably do that for Werder. So that is probably a pretty good comparison. But the Germans need someone to kind of be their focal point. They can Leroy Sané didn't play much in the first two games, but came on in the second and helped turn things around. They just need to again kind of change things up because the team he's picked for the first two games weren't really doing it. So if that
Yeah,
means
yeah.
no Gnabry, if that means no Thomas Muller, so be it. Get some pace, get Leroy Sané on there. I don't know. I mean, again, this is a pet peeve of mine. Leroy Sané is not an inverted winger. He needs to play down the left. I don't know why that they love to play him down the right and to watch him run into trouble. It's like the kind of it's like watching Lucas, but with much more skill, do the same stupid things. So Leroy Sané down the left has to happen. But
I'd
yeah,
personally have Sané on the left and Gnabry on the right. I mean, either
yeah, or
side of
yeah. Go
yeah,
on, sorry,
either side of the full whatever his name is. I can't remember his name now.
Musiala probably.
No. The guy that came isn't
Oh,
Musiala more of a
Fulkrug.
number
This
10?
he
Musiala in the
is.
10
Yeah,
role.
sorry. Yeah, yeah.
I'd almost play
I see what
those
you
as the
mean.
front four and then two holding midfield. So Kimmich and I can't remember the other. Who's the other one who plays for Kimmich?
Well, probably Gundogan, but I don't. I think they might go
Oh, of
with
course.
Goretzka because he's a bit stronger.
Mm.
It's like again, they're just a bit odd, like because their backline is so bad. The Germans, right? They've gone with Sula because he's experienced and he's played big games, but he's not a good defender. Rudiger starts, and I think the left back is pretty much set on. But what happens after that? They brought on Klosterman, who's kind of an all-rounder, to play right back. He did better than Thilo Kehrer, but I'd play Klosterman at centre back next to Rudiger and then put Kimmich at right back and say to Gundogan and Goretzka, you're in midfield. They don't want to do that because it's almost like, it's like putting Declan Rice at right back. Kimmich is so good for the Germans, so they respect him so much that to put him in defence doesn't make a great deal of sense, but it's probably, again, the best for their team.
Yeah, good point. I think Sula was absolutely shocking for the goal scored by Spain. Completely got his body shape wrong. He switched off. Just
He
really
looks
poor.
he
Not
looks like a
international defending.
boxer, and he plays like a boxer. Like I think he's got Hungarian heritage, and he really does like the kind of Hungarian thug image in my mind. I mean, I don't know any Hungarian thugs, so this is all from movies and like stereotypes. And like the Hungarians I know are lovely
Be
people.
careful.
I am being very careful, but he looked like there's an Austrian defender called Hinteregger who used to play at Eintracht Frankfurt,
Yeah.
and I used to call him a thug in football boots. Like he was just this big guy who was quite fast and he'd kick everything in sight. And Sula is like that to me. There's very little football skill there. It's just brute size and strength.
Yeah. Okay. And then on to Croatia. Is Morocco the way that Caller would pronounce Morocco? Morocco.
Maybe Maroc, isn't it? Like the kind of French spelling, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Canada are out, sadly for Sean and our
Yeah.
Canadian patrons, but they gave it a good go and a really good experience for them, I think, for the World Cup, which will be held in Canada, Mexico, and the US in 4 years' time. Really exciting. If they can hold on to the manager, who's British, who's English. No, you don't
He
like him?
is, but no, I like him. I think he'll go
Uh,
somewhere bigger/better than
yeah.
Canada. I mean, I
Do you
think I
think
said on a
he?
previous show that Ancelotti, his wife is Canadian, and he's talked
Mm,
openly about
yeah, he
kind
did.
of finishing, having that be his final job, taking Canada to the World Cup. So, but I think Herdman has done enough at Canada, and he probably thinks, there's another stage for me now because he's only late 40s. He's not old.
Yeah,
So whether
and
it's club
isn't he
management or still,
married? Isn't he married to the TV presenter who I can't remember his name, Lindsay, blonde lady? She used to do the American NBC programs, and now she's doing BT Sport. I've forgotten the name. I might
I
be
don't
wrong.
know.
Yeah,
John
I'll
Herdman, I
check in a
don't.
minute.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, but I see him being like the English version of like Hodgson or Hervé Renard, who like you don't really see, but he manages international teams around the world and always gets to a World Cup. It
HG,
would be
what
weird
what's
to see
what
him do club football.
what's our rule in politics
Do we have a
in the
well?
cheese room?
When Caller's not here, we can say what we want.
Oh, okay. I mean, Brendan said this on the pod because I did listen to the pod.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Brendan means by that. I wouldn't have thought that. He's just got a short, short sides and the floppy top, but. Yeah, to be fair, Herdman's probably been outside of the UK for so long that he wasn't allowed to vote, like me.
I bet
I will
Herdman.
put that out there.
I bet Herdman would. You'd want him on your side in the scrap, although he'd probably start the scraps. Maybe you wouldn't
Yeah,
want him on your
but
side.
he seems a bit. He seems like the kind of yappy dog. He's probably shorter than he looks. I think he's about 5'9", and we'll be like, yeah, giving it large, and then we'll not run, but the heavies will kind of step forward, and he'll just merge into the background. But he's clearly a good
Oh,
manager. I don't know why
oh,
we're talking
oh!
about him being a thug. Go on.
He's 1 meter 65, so he's even shorter than you
That's
thought.
that is tiny. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But like again, it doesn't matter. He just I never thought he was a thug. I just thought he's like the hipster without the beard. The haircut I think is pretty normal.
and
But
I'm
yeah, after
completely
what
wrong.
oh
I'm wrong about him being married to TV presenter. I've got that completely wrong. He's married to someone
okay.
called Claire, so I
Well,
apologise.
Claire Herdman, sorry
Yeah.
about that, but I'm sure you're very nice.
Anyway, that's our bit of info into the Canadian manager. We'll come back to him in 4 years' time, I guess. Just joshing, but he just scared me a bit. It's the hair.
It's the
Fair enough.
honestly, Brendan, if I could grow my hair much longer, it may well be a bit like that. But yeah, sadly, those days are over. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I think I genuinely think Herdman will be one of those guys who does international football. And there's no reason for him to do club football. He'll get jobs wherever he wants to go. And I think I said it on the previous show that if I were America, I'd be looking at him.
Well,
Take that and
certainly the
take that.
two Jacks
Yeah.
on Friday are not fans of their current coach, are they at all? And I also heard this on a podcast I was listening to with another journalist being very negative about some of the choices the American coach makes. So he's not
Is, is,
popular.
is there something in the water about defenders who used to play for Palace being bad international managers? There must be. There must
Maybe,
be.
maybe.
We're
Can we?
going to see Kevin Muscat is going to be in charge of. Was he at Palace at some point? Probably not. But
He
yeah, go on.
Millwall. He was at, wasn't he? Can we talk
Millwall,
about
Wolves.
talking about
Yeah.
managers? Can we talk
Mhm.
about Mr. Martinez at Belgium? I found out today. Not only is he the head coach of Belgium, he's the technical director for the Belgium FA. So he'd have to sack himself effectively.
Yeah, I don't know what it was because I mean, even when Belgium were good before he took over. They had a really good side, and you thought they might do something. And it was maybe Euro 2016
Yeah.
that they had. Was it? I think Wilmots was the manager, and I looked at him and thought, like, you're not good enough for this. Like, you might be Belgian, but you're not good enough. And then Martinez got the job and made Thierry Henry his assistant, and you were just like, who's making these decisions for Belgium? Like, no one who watches football or knows anything about football apart from maybe reading a back page once or twice. So, yeah, for him to have the job for so long makes sense for him. But at some point, you'd be thinking the players should be running that show. Like, Vertonghen and Alderweireld and Hazard and the others. I mean, because they've got, Axel Witsel. I don't understand the love for Axel Witsel. He's 30-something. He's a good player, but he's not great. He's never been that great to me. But Belgium have stuck with them, and they're now paying the price. There was an interview in the Guardian at the weekend with Kevin De Bruyne, and they asked him about the World Cup, and he basically said, 4 years ago was our chance. We're too old now, which I thought was very honest and extremely truthful, because, like, yeah, that defense is not bad. It's still not bad, but they're not scoring the goals that they should be, and they've got good attacking players. They just haven't found, whether it's the system or whether it's just they don't have a left back. So either Vertonghen has to go out there, which unbalances the rest of the centre backs. I don't know, but it's a shame because I think everyone wanted Belgium to do well. It's a small country, but yeah, when people talk about your golden generation hasn't won anything, like they get maybe 3 or 4 chances, right? Like that, and that's quite a lot. But still, the odds of you actually taking one of those chances are pretty slim to win something. Like Euro 2016 was a decent shot for them, and they lost to the Welsh. And that was they probably looked at that draw and thought, we're got with the Welsh away from the semi-finals, and Hal Robson-Kanu scored the goal he'll never score again. I mean, I remember I watched that in a hotel room and I could not believe what I was seeing. But the Belgium have had their chances. They got to the semi-finals in 2018 and lost to the French. They were on the difficult side of the draw then. But yeah, for them to get final four, that's such an American phrase, to the semi-finals.
Semi-finals.
Semi-finals. Being married to an American has just ruined my English completely. Although I do still say aluminum. Aluminium. Bugger.
Aluminum. Yeah. So a couple of things I heard about Martin. One thing was the journalist I heard earlier talking about him said the first 2 years they were brilliant, and then it went up. That's when it started to go down, which reminded me very much of his time at Everton when he picked up a brilliant defensive team and made them play football. So they had the best of both worlds until the defence forgot how to defend because he wasn't coaching them how to defend. And then he got sacked, which it's a similar sort of thing, I think, to a certain degree. But also they've got an ageing defence, like we know, with Vertonghen and Alderweireld, who are class, but they're both well into their 30s, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's things like, they've got the guy at Leicester now, Wout Faes, who's mid-20s and probably going to be the next guy. They could play a back three with him, but he chooses Dendoncker, who's not a defender. Like there are so many weird and wonderful choices that Martinez has made. Keeping with Hazard doesn't make any sense because for 3 years, it's like 3 years since he left Chelsea and he's done nothing.
Since he left Chelsea, he's been poor.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like I'm not sad for Belgium, but it does feel like they haven't got everything they could have, and that in itself is quite sad because I think we're all bored of seeing the same sides win stuff. Like I don't want the French to win it again, right? And so it's France and it's Italy and it's big established nations, and I guess that for those small sides, that everything has to go right in one summer. Whereas the bigger nations that have a bit more experience can make a mistake and probably get away with it. But for the Belgians, it just hasn't happened for them.
I heard today also that 2002 was the last time the winners of the World Cup went the whole way through winning all their games. So it's been a number of tournaments. So, even though quite a few teams have lost, Argentina have lost, obviously, wouldn't be a surprise if one of these teams that has dropped points does get there. So let's quickly go back to this one. Who's going to qualify? Croatia and?
Yeah, Croatia. I mean, if Croatia beat Belgium, which they should do, then it is Croatia and Morocco. It's done. So, I mean, that's the weird thing is when you get to this stage, you can only watch one of the two games. I'm not one of those people who can have two screens and watch both. I end up watching neither. It doesn't help me. Yeah. But in that case, if Croatia-Belgium is the game to watch because Belgium need to win. Like a draw might be enough, I suppose, depending on goals and stuff. But no, I think it's Croatia and then probably Morocco.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. So obviously I made this before the Uruguay-Portugal game finished. So we'll just run through these ones. So Cameroon were 3-1 down to Serbia and got 2 goals back. Crazy game. I had it on in the bar at work, but sort of half watching it. Did you manage to see this, or were you actually teaching children?
The first half I watched because one of my lessons got cancelled. Thank you, Claudia, for that one. And in the second half, all the kids... I've got a lot of Serbian haters, I learned today. They were not happy when Serbia were 3-1 up, and I thought they would be quite happy, but I guess a lot of the Balkans don't like the Serbs. So, it was interesting. But 3-3, I mean, if you're Serbia, that's a terrible result. 3-1 up should have been done. But then Cameroon... Yeah, Cameroon, they don't have many players that you've heard of, but there's a couple of strikers that look pretty good, even if they're older, like Abubakar is. but Choupo-Moting is clearly 30-ish. But the Serbian defenders, right? So there's the guy, the one who scored, Pavlovic. He's at Red Bull Salzburg. I think he looks like a bit of a thug and not much else. Like
There's a
that
theme
thug in
tonight.
football boots is. Well, like he does. I mean, I don't expect someone with long hair to be all sophisticated or whatever, or even hair. But there is very little reason for it. So like I know he scored, but he hasn't convinced me on the ball, and his positioning doesn't seem great. Then they've got Veljkovic, the guy who is at Werder Bremen and used to be at Spurs as a youth
Oh
player.
yeah,
Yeah, not really. So no is the short answer to Adrian. I haven't thought too much of the Serbians, at least the central defenders. I'm racking my brains about the wing backs now, but Filip Kostic I love down the left, but yeah, I don't like any of those centre backs. Adrian, do you feel differently? If you do, let me know. But
yeah,
I'm not a massive fan.
yeah. And then Sonny, are Korea out now? I can't even remember. I'm not sure they're actually out. I've
No,
got
they're
the.
not
Oh, I haven't got
out
the.
because they.
I haven't got the league table there, but they're
So
pretty
well,
much they're struggling, aren't they?
yeah. So I think like Cameroon have. Wait, I always get these
Hold
groups
on, I'll
confused.
find it.
Brazil
Right.
beat Serbia. So Serbia have one, Cameroon have one, and then, oh, no, wait, I'm talking about Korea now. Crap.
Yeah, sorry.
Korea,
Portugal
Ghana,
got
Portugal,
six.
Uruguay. Yeah.
Portugal got six. Ghana got six. South Korea and Uruguay have got one each.
Now Ghana have got three, right?
Ghana got three. Yeah. So
South Korea and who have got one each? Uruguay.
Uruguay.
So it's
So
Uruguay, Ghana. So like you think Uruguay again? Uruguay will feel like they need to win to go through, and Korea have the difficult game against Brazil. So you'd imagine that they're
no,
out. Yeah.
no. Korea aren't playing Brazil.
No.
Korea
Who
are
have they
playing
got? Who's that?
Portugal.
Portugal. Yeah.
Portugal. They were
Same
playing.
difference.
So
Like I
Portugal are
mean,
pretty much qualified, aren't they?
yeah,
They
yeah.
need a point. But yeah, Uruguay need to beat Ghana, and I think they've got the players. I think they were unlucky tonight. They could have easily got something out of that game.
I think that Uruguay side is crying out for a 4-4-2. They haven't really like 4-3-3. They've got some good players on the bench that they could probably do with, but I feel like playing three attackers, they're missing someone on that right hand side. They played Palistri in the first game, didn't do too much. They played Varela there, who I think is a fullback usually. Tonight, if they're going to go with 4-3-3, they need to find someone else who can do that. Maybe the guy who came on, De Aris Keita, I think is his name, had a decent chance. But they've got two very good left backs, because one plays for Roma and another one plays also in Italy. I forget which team. And like if they could combine those down the left, that's a pretty strong side. And you'd imagine that with the front two, then you've got Cavani or Suarez or Nunes. You pick two of those three that could work together, and then probably you put Valverde on the right side of midfield, which is again maybe not his best position, but it would suit the system with Bentancur and Vecino in midfield. So like to me, a 4-4-2 might work better for them, but yeah, they need to find a goal. I mean that's just it. Like Bentancur had their best chance tonight. Probably should have scored, if I'm honest. As much as I think he did really well to get there, once you're there, you got to make it count.
Should have gone round him. I think.
I
I
think
think
so
he could.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
I mean, how
the
good it
keeper
would have
wasn't
been
ready
to
for that.
how brilliant would it have been to have the two girls of the tournament being from Spurs players after
Would have been
Richarlison was.
amazing, and it was a brilliant play. I mean, like Bentancur really is a fantastic player, but that was a massive, massive chance, and he knew it. And if Uruguay can't score goals, that's it. They are going home. Which, let's face it, if he goes home, is good for Spurs.
Yeah. Okay. And then Brazil won 1-0. A late Casemiro goal. Lovely
Decent
strike.
goal. It was a
Yeah,
lovely
lovely strike, wasn't
strike.
it? I didn't see the
Yeah,
game
Brazil.
itself.
Brazil are probably what Southgate wants England to be. Quite boring, nothing too special. Keep it tight, and hope for some magic. But they've not conceded a goal, and that gives you more than half a chance.
Interesting. I heard Gary Neville on ITV after the game talking about Brazil. Obviously, they've got a huge number of forward players. He could have been talking about England because he said the coach, it's about finding the balance in the number of attacking players and the number of defensive players so that you've got that solidity, but you can create. And he said to begin with, the coach had too many defensive players on. And by the end of the game, he got it about right. And he
Okay.
could have been talking about England because we've got so many creative attacking players for England now.
Yeah.
But Southgate is so conservative, and I get why, but you just want him to release a handbrake, don't you? And that's what they need to do against Wales tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't get why now. I really don't. Like, as I've said before on plenty of shows, I got why a few years ago, but I don't get why now. Everybody knows that England's strength is going forward. And if we had a back four, like if the back four was Shaw, Maguire, Stones, and Walker, they're all going to play, right? But if that was your back four, it's not as if you're playing someone out of position. You lose Trippier's delivery, but if you've got Maddison or Foden or Grealish or whoever in the side, you don't need it from your wing backs as much. It just feels, yeah, that there's so much that Southgate could do differently, and it's sad that, you know, from what the reports are today, that Bellingham's not going to play. He's going to play Henderson instead. It's overkill. It's absolute overkill. Like, you know, Wales are good enough to beat England. Clearly, it's the biggest game of their lives, right? They play England at a World Cup. They've not been in the World Cup for, 64 years. It's a very long time. It's a massive game, and Wales could easily win the game 2-1. Right? I mean, they outplayed us in the Euros a few years ago. Could have won that game, and England got lucky at the end. So but like, if you're Southgate, you're thinking, look, it's highly unlikely we are not going to finish at least second, right? And if we do finish second, we're going to get either Holland or Ecuador, which neither one of them, gives me a huge amount of fear, right?
Oh.
So go out there and see what happens, because he did it in the first game. We went relatively attacking, even if it was Iran. It was relatively attacking, and we got a bunch of goals from it. I don't want to see us go back to the defensive, backwards football. I mean, Mason Mount, if he's going to play, you need him wanting to create things and not just recycling, because other players will do that. He doesn't need to do that.
He's also got to score goals, because that's part of he is a goal scoring attacking midfielder basically. And if he's not going to do that, you need to have the likes of Foden in there or Maddison.
Yeah. And the thing is, he came closest to scoring against America with that shot from outside the box. That's the scary part. Like Mason Mount, England has always had players like him. Like when I was a kid, I remember David Platt. David Platt became England captain because he was Mason Mount. He didn't do anything really, but he would score. So of course you kept him in the team. Like, if Mason Mount starts scoring goals, the same would happen to him. I mean, not the captain part, but like, he would be in the team regularly. But you're right. Like, if he's not an attacking threat, get someone on the pitch who is, because that is why he's there. We're not playing 3-5-2, right? I really don't want us to be 3-5-2. And if we do, then Bellingham needs to be the one that's bombing forward, not Mount. You have Bellingham and Foden do it from central midfield, not Mount. Mount is that type of guy who will, if you're playing a 3-4-2-1 like he does for Chelsea, he'll be one of those two attacking midfielders, and he'll help out in midfield, and he can get forward when he needs to, but you've got to have control of the ball, and England don't really play like that. We don't have control in midfield, we have control at the back, and that doesn't help Mason Mount at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right, let's have a quick talk through the permutations. So, right. England are +4, Wales are -2. That's a 6-goal swing. If Wales were to win 3-0, that 6 goals gets cancelled out, because it's -3 for England and +3 for Wales. That would put them on equal, wouldn't it? Goal difference and all that malarkey.
But I think England would still be ahead on goals scored.
If it was 3, England scored 6. Yes, you're right. Yeah, so England would go through. So Wales need to win the game by 4 goals.
To get above England, yes.
To get above England. That's the only way Wales can qualify. And as Kerry says, yeah, right, not going to happen. Wales score 1 or 2 goals maximum a game generally. So, if Iran draw,
but hang on a second. But surely, if Wales beat England, right, and Iran and America draws, then Wales go through on goal difference, because their goal difference is the same as Iran's.
Wales would, if Wales beat England. Yes, you'd be right. Yeah, potentially, yes.
So if Wales, like I think I read, if Wales beat England 1-0 and Iran America is 0-0, then England and Wales will go through.
Correct, because Wales would be -1 and Iran would still be -2. You are correct.
So it's not massively out of the question for Wales to get through. I mean, it looks it, but it really isn't that difficult. So,
but you know what's going to happen?
Difficult, but
Iran will win it in the 99th minute or something. That's what's going to happen. It will just be like.
Joe, I know I'm in the minority here, but I hate this new added time nonsense. At no point in this tournament have I thought, this game, there's been at least 5 minutes more injury time, more time wasting than in the last game. At no point have I thought that. And yet some games you get 5 minutes added on and some games you get 10.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
If Ben Foster was playing, we'd be playing to the 150th minute, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes zero sense to me and I hate it. Like as much as I don't really like the like everyone knows in the Premier League, 3 minutes is standard at the end of the game. 4 minutes if there's been a few subs. 5 minutes if you've had a lot of subs and maybe a couple of goals or an injury or whatever. And anything above 5 is super rare, right? But we all know that's the system. 3 or 4 or 5. That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
To go through some games when you get 5-1 and then 10 the next, and then the 10 actually becomes 12 because the ref plays even longer. That's crazy. And to me, it does not help football at all. It is not a good thing.
Yeah. So
Rant
Adrian
over.
believes that USA Iran will be a draw. I think that's an interesting game on so many levels, politically and sporting wise.
Yeah.
USA got their tactics absolutely spot on against England at how to stop England playing, and Southgate didn't come up with a decent plan B. But did USA
What? Really?
overrun them? Did USA almost overexert themselves in that game? Do you think they're going to have an effect? This will have an effect in this game.
Um, Overexert? No. I think every team is going to be slightly tired after three, tough games in 8 days. But again, it's the same for everyone, right? So, America will look at the two performances so far and think, look, we're playing okay. We haven't got the goals we need. Right? They need to score a few more. They've only got one, so they'll make a couple of changes. But I think the back four is pretty much set. I think they're happy with the midfield three they have. And it's a question of like if they can get a central striker that's getting on the end of things, because that's what they're missing, right? Timothy Weah is a pretty good player, but Pulisic is the key. If they get Pulisic someone to play with, then they'll do damage. But it's I don't look at America's keeper and think he's particularly secure, and that's not my Tottenham head speaking against an Arsenal goalkeeper. He just doesn't look very good. He doesn't fill me with any confidence. But yeah, Iran. The Welsh will know what Iran can do. So that is the game I will watch. I know that sounds like I'm just saying it for clicks or for effect, but the England-Wales game, I, I, I will care if Wales go ahead. I might switch then, but instinctively, the Iran-America game feels like a bigger game. I don't know why I'm saying that, because it
I
isn't.
think tactically, it'll be a really interesting game to watch, to see how both teams do face it. So just going back to
If
the
Iran go for it like they did against Wales, then you'll have a really, really good attacking game, because I don't think the
yeah
Americans can play defensively.
yeah
But yeah, I'd rather see two teams going for it than England playing five at the back with three in midfield. I think that is it. That's
yeah.
it, more than anything
I
else.
think the thing is USA have got more legs than Wales have. Wales were carrying two players,
Yeah,
two great players in their time, but for me, Ramsey and Bale, you could carry Bale because of what he can do. That was
yeah,
the worst performance I've ever seen from Aaron Ramsey, and probably from a player full stop at the World Cup. He was appalling. He couldn't find his own
okay,
players. Just terrible. And Bale, we know where he's at. His body's broken. He's on the pitch for that bit of magic, isn't he? But I
yeah.
think he's going to have to play Joe Allen, and I think he's probably going to have to drop Ramsey because he's just so far off it at the moment.
I think a back four for Wales is the way to go. They need, I mean, their attacking players are the ones that play Premier League more than anything else. They need attacking players on the pitch, because if you're carrying Bale this year, at some point in your team, then those players that are carrying him need to be around him. There's no point having an extra player in defence, because then Bale's not helping you at all, and you're not masking his weaknesses either. So I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Wales need to win, and I don't like. I suppose Wales could win by keeping it tight and getting a set piece, but you'd like to think that they want to have a go themselves. Go out with some glory, because again, they can't really lose. Like, no one expects Wales to beat England at any point, and then in a World Cup where they've got nothing to lose anyway because their first two results haven't gone their way, it does. You would hope that Wales will say, to heck with this. Let's see what we can do. This England team, we can get at them. We can make life difficult for them. And if England, if England are being defensive anyway, you may as well just go for it.
I don't think
You have
Wales are going
to.
to come out of the traps at all. I think they're going to keep it as tight as they can, and they're proper. I sort of joked about it in the previous show about them being a bit of a Burnley with a
Mm.
couple of world class players, but I think they're going to try and keep it tight and try and hit England. They're going to Kiefer Moore's going to cause as many problems as he can, and it'll be knockdowns to Bale and probably Dan James as much as can. Oh, Joe Allen
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much gave,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, Joe Allen hasn't played. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But Ampadu isn't good enough in that role. He's a defensive player, but
Yeah.
he's just not good enough on the ball. And they kept losing the ball because he can't recycle the ball well enough. We know Joe Allen, if he's fit, and that's the problem. You've got Allen, Ramsey, and Bale aren't fit enough between them.
Yeah. And that's just it. Like, so to me, like you need that extra player in midfield to cover the weaknesses, not in defence, because they play three at the back to cover weaknesses. I just feel that now that it needs to be in this middle part. And like the point that Kerry makes here about Hennessy, Danny Ward. Like, I mean, I feel sorry for the bloke. He's not looked good for Leicester. He comes in for Hennessy, and within 10 minutes, he's conceded twice. Neither of which were his fault, but still, it just doesn't. You look at Danny Ward and you think if you get a shot on target, this might go in. And
Yeah.
he looks nervous himself, so it's rough. Because Hennessy, this will be the biggest game of his life, and now he can't play in it. But it serves him right because it was a stupid decision to come out.
It was
It's just
Gazaniga, wasn't it?
insane.
It was
It
like that
was
Gazaniga challenge. Yeah. It
absolutely.
was
There's no need
baffling.
to do it. Yeah.
No, no. I mean, yeah. Anyway, going back to the Portugal game, you did send me a little picture of you spotted Bernardo Silva having a little rest, didn't you? In the crowd, just behind,
I'm sorry.
just behind
That
Suarez
has
while he's
to
warming
be
up.
that's got to be Bernardo Silva's brother. That is insane how similar that guy looks. Um, but yeah, or it's a very good lookalike. But yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that on Twitter. Someone posted that. Crazy, absolutely crazy.
just baffling, isn't it? Yeah. Move. Yes, yes, Kerry. We're moving on. So tomorrow's games. Let's go through tomorrow's games. So we've got Ecuador, Senegal, and Netherlands, Qatar. I'm going to suggest Netherlands will beat Qatar. Not a stretch that by any imagination there. And we're going to go for Gakpo goal again in that one.
Um, no, I have a feeling that Depay. I think Depay was going to start. I think Van Gaal came out and said that today that he's going to start this game, and so yeah, it would be one of those weird things that Qatar get their Qatar win the game, they get their 3 points, they get their victory, they're not through, right? And then of course the Dutch will probably still be okay depending on the other result, but yeah, that I won't like as much as I used to live in Holland and I speak Dutch and I love Dutch football. I'll be watching the other game. Ecuador Senegal is a much bigger game because that's where the drama is.
Okay. So Ecuador, what do you think? Ecuador, Senegal. What do you think result will be there?
It's like funny. Like Senegal have the names that we've heard of. They've got more names that we know. But I've been quietly impressed by Ecuador. Like they don't have. I mean, they've got the few Brighton players, but outside of that, they don't really have too many players that we've heard of. But they were, worth a point against the Dutch again, who aren't great. They beat Qatar in the opening game relatively comfortably. I would like to see Ecuador do it, so I'm going to go with them. But it's a tight game because both sides are more than capable of winning. It's the individual quality against the team ethic thing, and I
I mean,
think that the team ethic would be good enough to see Ecuador go through.
the thing is, Ecuador need a draw to go through.
Yeah.
So, is that going to a bit like Spurs at Marseille, where apparently long they said the players didn't know how to play it? Is there going to be that psychology that the longer it stays 0-0, are they going to be maybe not
I
trying to
think
attack?
the longer it goes on, like I think you play the first half as a normal game, because you've got a lot. They're not going to go and play 10 strikers, obviously, but the first half is a normal game. And if they start, if it's clear that, because again, it doesn't matter what happens in the other game, because Qatar are out, so they only have to worry about themselves, right? And so Ecuador might decide to go, play an extra centre back for the last 15 minutes and try and hold on. And like, from my memory, those things never work, right? You're just
Yeah.
asking for trouble. They'll take off one of their better players with like 10 minutes to go, and it ends up being 20 minutes to go because the added on time is so ridiculous, and they go out because of it. So it's yeah, I don't know, but I think I want to see Ecuador go through. I'll say that. I've been impressed with how they've gone about things.
I mean, there is a stretch that if Qatar were to win 2-0, they would have identical goal difference. The Netherlands would have identical goal difference to Senegal. So a draw between Ecuador and Senegal would then, a 1-1 draw would send Senegal through and Netherlands out. But that is a big
Oh,
stretch
really?
for Qatar with 2-0. Yeah.
Do you know, like it's funny. Like as I've said often on these shows, I watch the World Cup on Dutch TV. I genuinely like their coverage, and they are very, very underwhelmed with what they've seen from the Dutch so far. They're not
I think
happy.
everyone is.
Yeah, and like the Dutch is all about like they've unbeaten a lot. You know, like Van Gaal came in 18 months ago and they haven't lost a game under Van Gaal. So he's very much like, hey, like, why don't you trust me? Look at me, look at my record, which I guess you can't argue with results wise. But it's like England. They look at the players available and think, do we need to be playing this way? And the answer is no, they don't need to. So there is a let's say, you know, the Dutch people in general are quite opinionated, but the media will get involved, and Van Gaal will give as good as he gets. Like the quotes that you hear from these Dutch managers are outrageous by English terms. You wouldn't believe that they would get out there and do it, but it's quite normal for Dutch culture to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a weird one because Qatar. Like again, I know they've lost both games. I don't think they were that bad in the first game. I think Ecuador took advantage early on and saw the game out, right? But they've got nothing to lose. It could be embarrassing for the Dutch. Like everyone, you know, if the Dutch go through, they won't care too much. Qatar will save a bit of face, but I won't be watching that. I will be watching the other game. Genuinely,
Yeah.
that's the only one that matters to me.
Okay. Uh, right. I'm just going to put this up. I've just seen a very interesting tweet that Matt Hayes has retweeted from Opta Javier, uh, which is I won't say the the Spanish version. I'll give you the translated version by Google. Rodrigo Bentancur made 19 recoveries against Portugal, a record for any footballer in a FIFA World Cup in the 21st century.
Wow.
I just think,
He's
I mean, I know he did well not to get a second yellow because there was certainly a moment near the end where he was pulling a player and he put his hands up like that.
mhm.
And there was another Uruguayan player who could have been sent off on. I think the referees are being a bit lenient at times, aren't they? Especially with 50-50 challenges. They're just letting stuff go, which is quite, I'm enjoying that. But he just oozes class. He just glides, doesn't he? At times. And I know
Yeah.
you said about the goal, but some of the times he looks calm. And that has always been a sign of a good player. You can be calm when you're under pressure. And
Mhm.
yeah,
He
I think
plays
if we can,
upright.
yeah,
Like I mean, it's weird. Like there are some players who are like hunched when they get the ball. Like I would, right? I don't trust my touch, so I'm kind of like if I lean over it, I've got a better controlling it. And the very players they don't care about that. Like Bentancur's first touch is usually 1 yard into space, so he knows where he wants to do it. He's a quality player, and it's funny when you talk about those recoveries. Like I don't feel like any of them were like sliding tackles. Like he just gets in the way. He puts his body and he gets in and he takes the ball. He's not a blood and thunder defensive midfielder by any stretch. And the fact that he has the quality to stride forward and waltz through the Portugal defence by himself, I mean that's not normal. To 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 see a player like that do that on the biggest stage in football and know that that there will be fans out there if they don't know who he plays for and they'll look and be like, he plays for Tottenham, like that's nice.
yeah. I mean, normally you look at a World Cup, and Seb talked about this on the pod that in days gone by, you'd see players you didn't really know. You may have heard of them at a previous championship. The likes of Dumitrescu and Popescu when we signed them in '94, that was amazing. And you look at players and think, oh, I wish we could sign him. Bentancur was that player tonight on that pitch. He just looked brilliant, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah, it's
He
a
does. I
shame.
can't believe how he gets it. He just runs, stays on his feet. Yeah, whips the ball. Also, he picked up the ball right near the end before the ridiculous penalty, absolute stupid penalty.
Yeah,
He picked the goalkeeper had a goal kick. He just went and stood next to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper rolled it to him, and he had an attacker not far away from him, and he just pinged it to his mate, who again had a player on him. I'm not sure I'd ever see him doing that at Spurs. I think we'd worry too much. But the
yeah.
confidence that he could just ping it to his teammate and they wouldn't lose it was just brilliant.
It's a shame that he and Valverde because Valverde is quality as well at Real Madrid,
Yeah.
that the two of them don't get more opportunity to get further up the pitch, right? Because they're aware that they are, the best players in the team, the best midfielders. Like Suarez's days are gone, Cavani's days are gone.
Yeah.
Those two are the most likely to do something outrageous and win you the game. And it's a shame that they're having to. I think I saw at one point towards the end that Valverde was playing right back because they were just throwing on attacking players and hoping. And yeah, it's sad. But again, with my Spurs hat on, I'm quite happy that it looks like he's going to be done and home.
Yeah.
Home 1st of December. I mean, that's nice.
Yeah. I imagine him and Sonny will probably get a week or two off before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are the players back in training? I know they were going to be given a couple of weeks off, but I haven't heard anything.
I don't know too much. You'd think they'd want at least 2 weeks of training before the first game back. So maybe they get another week off.
They've got 4 weeks before the first game, haven't they?
Exactly. So I would say, maybe what was it? The 10th is the Saturday, so Monday the 12th might be the first game, the first training session back, let's say, and that will give most of the players, because again, that by that point, if you're out in the second round, in the round of 16, you're home, right? So there won't be too many Spurs players still in the competition by that point, I wouldn't think. So those players might get a week off and then come back the week before Christmas, but. Yeah, I quite like the fact it's 4 weeks until Spurs play. I don't want to really think about that right now.
Oh, Brendan confirms they are back. He saw Pits. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
It doesn't surprise me because they've had a couple of weeks off, and there'll be players that Conte wants to work with, and hopefully some of those players might get some game time.
Yeah,
not just
this
Emerson.
is a good point too. What Adrian puts. Yeah, I know Bentancur had his 5th yellow, so he won't play against Brentford. I don't know about Højbjerg's ban. Did he get 5 yellows too?
I don't think he has yet, but maybe he's close to it.
I don't know. But yeah, he's not far off it. So look, it's true. So Bentancur can come home a little bit later. But I don't know. He'll get a couple of weeks in some sunshine somewhere and then go.
One yellow for Højbjerg this season in the Premier League.
Just one?
Yeah.
There you go.
According to Flash Score.
Because Bentancur does all the dirty work for him.
Oh, Højbjerg thinks he's got a Euro ban. Okay. So Adrian thinks Højbjerg's got one.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Højbjerg misses the
Harry,
first game
however,
of the Champions League.
Harry's on 4 yellows.
Oh.
So with some big games in January, I think we should maybe play that Brazilian fella that scored a couple of good goals the other night. Much that Brendan will be delighted with me saying that, no doubt.
If Brazil are going to get a bit further in the tournament, but let's say if Spurs are smart, and it sounds awful, but if Spurs are smart, they will get Harry that booking. Is it the Palace game? So he misses the Villa game. I don't know if I wonder if you're banned in the Premier League that you can get your suspension for the FA Cup game. Is it domestic football? Because that would be the best solution.
I don't know. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because it seems to be one way and not the other way. I'm not quite sure, but we'll have to look into that and see what the rules are. Because being suspended,
I suspect it doesn't work that way. But if it did, that would be great. We'd be getting him booked in the Villa game, knowing full well that he'd missed the Portsmouth home game, which not a huge loss. But Spurs would be crazy to allow that, because I think it's what five bookings before the halfway point of the season.
Or 19 games,
and the Arsenal game is the halfway point, I think.
Right, okay. We've played 15, so 4 games with Brentford, Villa, Palace, and Arsenal would be the 19th game. Yeah. So
because it should have been game 20, right? Because City would have happened beforehand. But so if I'm looking at that, I would say to Kane, get yourself booked in the Villa game.
And you are right. We play
City,
then we play City, then we play Fulham, then we play City, and I guess we'll have an FA Cup 4th round as long as we beat Portsmouth, which, if you haven't heard, is our FA Cup 3rd round draw. Tonight we've got Portsmouth, so another game that Dane Scarlett definitely won't be playing in because he hasn't played in rounds 1 or 2. He hasn't been in the squad at all. Clearly Spurs have, and already I'm just looking at betting odds, and we're 10-1 on, so we'll probably throw it away by playing a reserve.
10-1. Oh, I thought you meant for the whole tournament. I was like, no, you mean
no, just to beat Portsmouth. Just came up there, and Portsmouth are 20-1 to win at White Hart Lane on the weekend of the 7th or 8th of January, which is James, my son's birthday. I have asked him if he wants to go for a traditional, but now he's going to be 20. He's probably going to be drunk in a pub somewhere listening to
Yeah,
heavy
but
metal
with
or
his
something.
dad. Yeah, but I mean, he lives in Portsmouth.
He
Like
doesn't. Yeah,
it's like
I'm not
the
getting him on
look.
the train with all those Portsmouth fans. That's not a good idea.
That's very
In
true.
his Spurs
That is
shirt.
very true.
But yeah, we got Brentford away on Boxing Day, Villa at New Year's Day, Palace on the
Mhm.
4th, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Palace
So
on the
yeah. So
4th.
then I would say that the Villa game, that's when Harry gets booked, and the Palace game is at home, right? Or is it away?
Away.
Okay. Yeah. So like maybe
We
the
always
home.
lose there.
Like it's weird. Like I don't know, but you can't run the risk of of Kane missing the Arsenal game. You just can't.
And the question would be if he got booked in the FA Cup, for example, and you wouldn't expect him to be
Hmm.
playing in that game, although he obviously had to come off
Yeah.
against the bench against Morecambe last year, would that count? Or is that just an FA Cup specific booking? So we'll need to look into
Yeah.
that and come back to everyone on that.
I have a feeling because they're aware, like the FA will be trying to, clubs will want to game the system. I think that if you get like violent conduct 3 games, then everything's included. But when it's like an accumulation of yellow cards, then it's like, no, it's that competition,
Okay, that would
right?
make sense. Adrian makes a good
There you
point. We
go.
won the FA Cup in '91 last time we drew Portsmouth. Gaza carried us to the final. I tweeted this earlier, Adrian, and somebody's responded saying we also played them in '67, and that person happened to be at both games.
Um,
Uh,
I'm not being funny. It's also not the last time we played Portsmouth in the cup.
oh,
There is
FA Cup
a
semi-final, of course.
There is a rather sad FA Cup semi-final, which we've all forgotten
Yeah,
about deliberately. So yes, Adrian, you are right.
yeah.
1991 was the last time we drew them.
I mean, we did beat Chelsea and Arsenal in the week after playing them last time, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
Danny
suppose that's
Rose,
good. But
Danny
I mean, like
Rose.
but didn't Portsmouth play Cardiff in the final that year? Was that the year they played? I mean,
No, no, no.
just
They lost to Chelsea in the final, didn't
okay.
they?
Then it doesn't
It
matter
was the
so
year
much. I mean, it's
before they played
annoying.
Cardiff. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So there you go. What else we got coming up? So I assume you're thinking of the beat Wales.
I think it's going to be everyone. It's going to be one of those 1-1 draws. Everyone is happy. No one is happy. Everyone goes home feeling that their ego is secure. 1-1. Whether it's
And all the
enough England to finish top, I don't think so. But
and
I
all the
have a
fans will
feeling
whinge about
1-1.
Southgate.
And
Okay,
it gives the people
Wednesday.
a chance to win about Southgate. Yeah,
Okay, we'll quickly scan through Wednesday. Australia, Denmark,
Denmark,
Tunisia, France,
France,
France, Poland, Argentina,
Argentina,
and Saudi Arabia, Mexico.
draw.
Okay. Thursday, Canada, Morocco.
Um, yeah, that's a rough one. Draw.
I personally
Canada
think
are.
Morocco, probably.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I think Canada have just been a bit naive at times, but then they might want to go out with a bang.
Yeah.
Croatia, Belgium. I'm thinking probably Croatia, the way
Yeah.
Belgium are playing.
Yeah.
Costa Rica, Germany.
Germans. I mean, the Germans aren't
Germans, yeah,
good, but the Germans will
yeah.
surely do enough.
And I can't see Japan having enough to beat Spain.
No. Maybe a
No.
draw, but I'm not sure
Yeah,
that will be enough.
and then we'll quickly scan on to Friday. The last it's Friday, the last day, isn't it, of the group
Yep.
games? So
Yep.
Ghana, Uruguay.
Ghana have scored goals, and Uruguay don't. So I go with Ghana. I mean, for that reason
Okay.
only, I go with Ghana.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of Bentancur, but I'm just erring towards Uruguay. But I think you make a good point. South Korea, Portugal. Probably going to be
I hope
Portugal.
I hope South Korea do it, but I think it'll be a draw probably.
It'd be nice if Sonny could get a goal just to get because he hasn't played well, to be honest,
Because
has he?
well, I mean, how long are we going back for this? Yeah, Sonny needs a goal just to kickstart something. And if Spurs are the
Yeah.
beneficiaries, are great. But yeah, he's not shooting really. He's not getting close to goal. It's his brain now. It's in his mind.
Yeah, yeah. Cameroon, Brazil. I think that's only going one way, probably, isn't it? Although it'd be interesting to see what Cameroon can do against that Brazil defense.
I mean, that's just it. Like they scored 3 when I think no one thought they were going to. Brazil look pretty good. I mean, yeah, if Brazil are like England, where they're good defensively and they're struggling to find the formula going forward, I'm not sure Cameroon are strong enough to really do something in their defence. But they're playing, was it Ada Militao played right back tonight? He's not a right back. So they
No,
do
he's
have
not. Yeah.
weaknesses. But I look at that Cameroon side and I don't. I was surprised they came back, if I'm honest. I thought Serbia really should have won that game. 3-1 up, it was done. So I
Yeah.
guess you just don't know with Cameroon. But yeah, I'd expect Brazil to win.
And the last game will be Switzerland against Serbia. So Switzerland 2 games, scored 1, conceded 1. Serbia scored 3, conceded 5.
Wow. I want the Serbians to win. I will say that. So that again, that's the game I'll be watching. But the Swiss have a habit of annoying teams, right? They keep it tight. They nick a goal. The goal they scored against Cameroon was just. Every time I watch that, I look at the Cameroon defender and think, "What were you thinking?" But I want Serbia to go through because I just think they're a better side. I think they're a bit more attacking, and I quite like basketball games of football. Where like neither side can really defend, but they're going to go for it and try and score. Because when you don't have a horse in the race, you want it to be exciting. And Switzerland, they only care about their own horse, and I understand why, but it doesn't usually make for a good game. So yeah, look, I think the Swiss will do it, but I want Serbia to win.
Interesting. The bookies actually have Serbia as favourites for that game,
Okay.
but it's very tight between Serbia and the draw. But yeah, I see what you're paying. There's this bloke who plays in midfield that we don't like particularly, who seems to have had a bit of a new lease of life, particularly for Switzerland.
Yeah,
Maybe he could go a couple more rounds and get a bit more tired. We obviously go on.
Can Switzerland play Ghana? They can, in some weird way. I mean, it's unlikely, but if Switzerland
Maybe they could take each other out.
yeah, wouldn't that be something?
That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? So yeah, I think, and then obviously Friday night we'll look at the weekend's knockout games and review what's happened. I don't know if you and Gibbo might be here tomorrow night or Wednesday night. We haven't quite worked this out yet, have we?
No, I think we should do it after the game tomorrow. I do.
Okay.
I'll
be working.
Yep. Okay.
So I won't be here,
Gibbo and I will probably do tomorrow.
Okay. So yeah, tune in. Kerry, you'll be laughing or crying. I'm not sure which one. James will be doing the same. I'm in both camps, so I can't win, I can't lose. I'm not sure which way around it is. Just hoping the students behave
I've got
themselves.
a Welsh name. Does that put me in half and half? Like Idge,
Yeah.
G. It's very Welsh. But
Paul is half Welsh, apparently.
Yeah, he is. That's right. Yeah. No, I just think that being English, like I don't have the dislike. Like even though I know the Scots and the Welsh and the Irish, they all hate the English. I don't feel that way to them because of it. I enjoy watching Scotland lose, if only for the fact that I know it annoys them. But I quite like Scotland. I'd like them to qualify. It's kind of like when Wales didn't make the World Cup of '94, I was sad. I wanted the Welsh to do it then. So
Bowden, you idiot!
Yeah, seriously. I don't.
And then he scored a penalty against Spurs a couple of weeks later, right in front of me.
I was there. That game.
Yeah.
Oh. But I didn't realise those two were so related. But yeah, okay. I just, in a perfect world, England and Wales would go through. The Welsh would win 1-0 and we get the draw. And I genuinely would like that. But I don't know. It's a big game, and we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Anyway, please do click that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And we will be back later in the week. Caller has set up a new channel for us, which I'm not quite sure how I'm going to find it yet. But we've got a World Cup channel coming, and also a gaming channel for James and Seb to do their Football Manager and FIFA and all that sort of stuff, which will be coming out in the near future. So on that note, come on you Spurs. Come on you England and Wales.
I know, it's like usually Gibbo and I do the whole "it's coming home." It's not coming home. But in this case, we can both say it's not coming home.
It's not coming home.